Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Just when you didn't think there could be any more drama surrounding Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez and their upcoming fight on 13 September, more drama. Yo, man, make sure y'all like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, become a member to the channel, and leave a donation for fried rice and chicken wings. This shit about a smaller ring. Y'all remember when Canelo, during the press conference, he said to Turkey Al-Sheikh, hey, yo, Turkey, you may make sure you put us in a smaller ring so this guy doesn't run. And Crawford said, the only running I'm going to do is be running upside your head. Well, it seems that the smaller ring discussions have bubbled back up. Now, if in fact Canelo was serious about that statement, Turkey, put us in a smaller ring. I thought it was just Canelo being tactical and trying to get a psychological advantage over Crawford. You know, mind games. But is Canelo, would he be smart to request a smaller ring? Or is he scared? Just a question. Now, I don't think that necessarily means that he's scared if he wants to be in a smaller ring. I think for a guy like Canelo, it's more strategic. Just like Crawford probably wanting to be in a larger ring, even though he'll tell you that he'll fight in a smaller ring. It doesn't matter because he feels, and so do many fans, that skills pay the bills. But Crawford's strengths, right? I'm going to tell y'all something that y'all probably didn't know. When Floyd fought Maidana, y'all realize that first fight where Maidana had some success? You guys know why. It's because Floyd and Maidana fought in a small ring, 18 feet. How many of y'all knew that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. You see, Crawford is slick, elusive, masterful at controlling distance. Same thing with Floyd. But you saw what happened in that smaller ring with Maidana. A less skillful fighter than Canelo. Not as big as Canelo as far as punching power. Maybe he hits as hard as Canelo. But you saw what happened with Floyd in that small ring. Even the great Floyd Mayweather struggled with a guy like that. What would happen if Crawford and Canelo were in an 18-foot ring? Could be all bad for Crawford. You would think, right? A larger ring would give Crawford the room that he needs to maneuver and frustrate Canelo's pressure style. And that's why you saw Mayweather in his rematch with Maidana do so well. Because, Floyd is the A side. Floyd Mayweather, he'll tell you that shit. I am the A side. Yeah, because Floyd made sure in that second fight they were in a 20-foot ring. A lot of y'all didn't even know that. That's why that second fight went the way it did. Floyd was able to utilize that real estate and execute his game plan the way he normally does, which is using his feet, utilizing every square inch of that ring to box. And, go on to an easy decision win. You see, the thing about these smaller rings, although skills pay the bills, and I agree with that to a certain point, right? But the smaller ring limits your movement. And Shakur Stevenson fought Cepeda in a 20-foot ring. If that would have been an 18-foot ring, that fight would have been very different. I'm telling you, I think it would have been different. Even though Shakur stood and he held his ground, there were a couple moments where he was able to move around. But I just think the 18-foot ring wears on a boxer's mind psychologically. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, it's going to force more exchanges. And you tend to think in a smaller ring, more exchanges, that's going to favor Canelo's power and it's going to favor his body work. Why on earth would Crawford want that? Sometimes, fighters to me got to sit their pride aside and take a deep breath and then respond with less emotion and more intelligence. Because if for some reason this conversation about a smaller ring bubbles up again and Crawford accepts the challenge and says, whatever, we could be in a phone booth, I'll fight him, make it a smaller ring, I don't care. I just don't see anything good happening in there for Terence Crawford. I'm just being honest with you. And even if you're a Terence Crawford fan, you got to be real. Crawford in a small ring with Canelo, I don't see how you guys would expect to see Crawford coming out of that victorious. But the bottom line, if Canelo really does push for that small ring, some people are going to see that as an insecurity for Canelo and Canelo's team. Maybe Canelo, because look, he's the A side, right? Of course, I did my video saying that I felt Turkey wanted Crawford to win. So as a result, when you got a guy like Turkey on the sheet behind you, that kind of makes you the A side because he wants you to win. So you would think the deck would be stacked in the favor of Crawford. But if Canelo gets an 18-foot ring, then the deck is being stacked in favor of Canelo, just like an elite fighter would have going into a fight of this magnitude. Now, if Crawford agrees to this smaller ring, is he foolish? I think he's foolish, man. It's risky, man. Absolutely 150%, matter of fact, 3,000%, 1,000,000% risky. Just doesn't make sense. Crawford agreeing to a smaller ring, he just neutralizes all of his natural advantages, natural abilities, and his biggest weapon, which we saw what happened with Floyd Mayweather, his biggest weapon, footwork, and that small ring with McDonough. But see, Crawford's not stupid, all right? I think he would entertain it just to get everybody talking, but I'm not so sure he would go through with it. But it takes me back to Crawford when Canelo brought up the small ring where Crawford told him, look, I'm not running. The only run I'm going to be doing is going upside your head. But how much does a guy like Crawford believe that skills pay the bills? And how much does he believe that size and space don't matter if you're sharp and smart? Size and space does not matter if you're sharp and if you're smart. You can be sharp, you can be smart. You get in a small ring with a guy who only has to be perfect for 1 second. You got to be sharp and smart the entire fight or 36 minutes. You're highly susceptible to not being perfect for just a split second and given a bigger, stronger, high IQ fighter as well like Canelo an opportunity to tranquilize you, destabilize you, put the bing bings on you, have your chest to canvas, ass in the air like a Diddy freak-off. But maybe a guy like Crawford, hey, he doesn't see it the way I see it. Maybe Crawford sees it as, I'm betting on my IQ. I'm betting on my timing. Her champion, you scared. You wouldn't do it. Just because you wouldn't do it, don't say that I should agree with you. I'm the real deal. I'm Terence Crawford, Bud Crawford, Omaha, Nebraska's finest. And I tend to think Crawford has that kind of mindset where he's so used to proving doubters wrong, he may find himself in a position now where he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to prove doubters wrong again. Put me in the small ring. And this time he may prove the doubters right. Because one thing for sure, Canelo and the fact that this conversation has surfaced again, I don't know if Canelo's fearful of Terence Crawford. I would tend to say he's not. I just think he's being tactical. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, just the fact that it's being discussed, I think a small ring discussion would stress out Crawford and his team more than Canelo's team. So it could just be something to stir the pot and put something else on Crawford's mind that for Canelo and his team, they feel gives them an upper hand or somewhat of an advantage. And the mind game war, mental warfare. But if Crawford agrees, it could be a calculated risk, not blind bravado. Could you imagine if Crawford agreed to a smaller ring? They fought in an 18-foot ring and Crawford knocked out Canelo? Yo, that would be crazy. Even in a smaller ring, he didn't knock him out. He just beats him. And shows that, being sharp, precise, skillful is all you need against anyone, no matter the size of the ring. That shit would send shockwaves throughout the boxing community. But nonetheless, you can expect like 2,000 more videos coming from me, especially about Crawford and Canelo, because like the fight's really shaping up to be a masterclass. And mind games and adjustments of a little bit of everything. And this is what you want to see. There's so much conversation and discussions going on about Crawford, Canelo, who's going to win, how they're going to win, ringside. There's dumb shit about PEDs, but it's nothing wrong with having a conversation. But what I will say is if you take a look at Mayweather and Maidana, or Ward and Kovalev, I think that could give us a good gauge on the direction this fight could go as far as Crawford and Canelo. And I think a brilliant way to understand how ring size works, the style matchups, the psychological warfare is really to understand. I got a chart that I put together here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, right here. So, Crawford versus Canelo versus Mayweather versus Maidana. So when you take a look at the ring size, Mayweather fought Maidana in an 18-foot ring, small. Crawford and Canelo, to be determined, but Canelo requested a small ring. See, that he said that. I didn't say that. The style clash. Slick boxer and Mayweather, aggressive brawler and Maidana. Crawford and Canelo, slick switch hitter versus a pressure puncher. Kind of the same. Impact of ring size. Maidana in the smaller ring was able to trap Mayweather, landed rough shots, put the bing-bings on Mayweather. Crawford and Canelo, a small ring, it could limit Crawford's movement. The outcome, Mayweather won a close majority decision. Some felt he lost that first fight. Crawford and Canelo is to be determined, but similar dynamics expected. And I agree with that. What happened in the rematch with Mayweather and Maidana? They got a larger ring for the rematch. It was a 20-foot ring. And Crawford and Canelo, Crawford may push for a larger ring if needed. Now you see, in the first fight, Maidana, his success was largely due to a small ring. Crawford and Canelo, if it's a small ring, I think we're going to be saying the same thing, except I think Canelo's going to win. If it's a small ring, for sure. But Mayweather adjusted in the rematch with the bigger ring, cruised to a clearer win, and Crawford may need to learn from that playbook and not play with fire, messing around with Canelo in some small-ass ring. Now, as far as Ward and Kovalev, some people to this day felt like Kovalev won that first Ward fight. I do. I thought Kovalev won. The second fight, I still didn't understand how Kovalev... I didn't understand that whole fight, but the bottom line, Ward won it. But that fight was just weird to me. Very, very weird to me. The ring size was a 20-foot ring. The style clash, again, Andre Ward was a technical boxer. Kovalev wasn't really a pressure fighter, but he was just a power puncher. He killed somebody in the ring, so that just lets you know that he can crack. The size disadvantage, Ward moved up from 168 to 175. So again, Ward was fighting a much bigger guy. Crawford moving up from 147 to 168. The outcome, Ward won a controversial decision. Maybe that could be the outcome of Crawford and Canelo. But what happened in the rematch with Ward and Kovalev, Ward made the adjustments, stopped Kovalev, body shots. Same thing we're talking about with Crawford and Canelo, go to the body. So Crawford's he may need a similar adaptation. when he gets in the ring with Canelo, for some reason, it's not a clear victory the first fight. If there is a rematch, he may need to make some adjustments. But I'm thinking, I think Canelo should be the favorite, but I can see Crawford winning. But if he can really sustain a good body attack against Canelo, it could be all bad. You know, if Canelo is able to catch up to Bud and touch him up, especially to the body, you'd have to think Canelo's going to hurt him. Anyway, when it comes to Turkey Al-Sheikh, it seems like he's going to make the final decision. You know, when Turkey's in the house, every day is Thanksgiving. Canelo's request for the smaller ring could be a strategic kind of echo just of Mayweather and Maidana and how that gave Maidana advantage over Mayweather. When it comes to Crawford, his challenge, it's going to kind of mirror Ward's uphill battle against the bigger, larger guy in Kovalev, bigger puncher. Just Kovalev had most of the advantages over Ward as far as size, power, and the aggression. Because Ward, again, was taking a big weight jump going up. But if Crawford agrees to a small ring, he'll just need to fight a perfect tactical fight, man. And just like Mayweather did in the rematch, and like Ward did in the rematch, you know. So I think there's a lot of lessons there to be learned that Canelo can learn from, as far as in a small ring and the type of fight he should fight to have success against Crawford, the way Maidana did, the way Kovalev did. But also there's some lessons to be learned from Crawford to see how Mayweather was able to, just kind of scrape out a very, very close, controversial win over Maidana, the first fight, and how Ward was able to come out here and just squeeze out a really close, controversial win in the first fight. But then also going into a rematch, making sure, like Floyd did, he gets a much larger ring. So anyway, can't wait to see this fight take place. The smaller ring talks. I'll tell you one thing that shocks me. Most of these fighters, this Tom and Jerry stuff, guys who would benefit being in a larger ring, it's like Turkey Al-Sheikh it's like being in junior high school, peer pressure. I bet you won't do it. I bet you won't do it. And then somebody foolishly will go and do whatever. Back in the day, we called it, N-word knocking. That kids call it now ding-dong ditching. Remember back then, I bet you won't ring that doorbell. I bet you won't knock on that door. And you get somebody who would go do it. But with us growing up, we were so wild, it didn't take that. All of us were, on the weekends, used to look forward to doing that shit. But I hope Crawford doesn't succumb to the peer pressure of being baited into, I bet you won't fight him in a small ring. And then accept the fight in a small ring and get in there and go life and death. And really had that shit turned to a Tom and Jerry where now Crawford is running around that ring and turned into a boxer runner looking crazy. But anyway, good luck to Crawford, good luck to Canelo. But back in that story about knocking on doors and running, I'll leave y'all with this before I get off. You get some guys, Crawford may be like how we were. There was no peer pressure when we were out there N-word knocking. You know what I'm saying? Just like Crawford may not feel any pressure about fighting in a smaller ring. He like, shit, I'll do it. I don't care. Worst that could happen is I lose, I make my money, whatever. But I'm going to fight him. And same thing with us. But we wouldn't just knock on doors, ring doorbells. We were so crazy. Especially Saturday, about 8 o'clock, walking around, there were some people who had homes that were like shotgun homes. So you have the front door here, you can look straight through the front door and see the back door. And they would have the glass door closed, but the door itself would be open. So that, you could look right through the house. We were the kind of kids, this is shit we used to do. Now we would dare somebody. I dare you to open up that that glass door and run through the house, through the living room, and go out the back door. Because some people used to be barbecuing and shit, 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, music playing. And there's this whole crew of us, like 30, 35 of us, out there getting into mischief, just getting into shit. And be like, all right, somebody be like, I'll do it. Like, yo, do it with me. We'd be like, all right. So we go, open the door, they take off running through, man. You hear people in the house shouting and screaming, because you can imagine if you're sitting in your living room and you're chilling with your family and these 2 kids, little teenagers come running through your house. You don't know if they're there to rob you. You don't know if they're going to kill you. You don't know what's going on. And then our friends used to run through, bam, push it, sometimes break the whole back screen door off and shit and fly out. And we'd take off running. And I remember one time this has nothing to do with Bud now. But what I'm saying is I can see Bud being that kid who's like, you ain't no peer pressure putting me into this. I want to do it. Just like he wanted to fight in a small ring. But I remember one time, man, we were like, yo, it was my friend Alan's turn. We were like, yo, it's your turn. Because every weekend we do it. And that night we were harassing the shit out of people. And we were like, yo, it's your turn. You do this house. So he went up to do it. But when he ran through, for some reason, that back door, the glass, the screen door, it's a glass screen door. Some people have the regular door, they have the screen door, but they have the little glass on there, the screen at the bottom. He went to run up, but that shit was locked. And normally you can just push it, that shit just comes off. It didn't. And man, that shit, them people in there were going crazy. So like 4 of us ran in there, man, and it was just a lot of shouting and screaming. They were scared. They didn't know what was going on. You just look and see all these kids in there, and not just a bunch of black kids. You had, Spanish cats, mixed cats. But they just see these roughneck-ass teenagers running up in their house. We could have got killed doing that shit. And then we run out of there and they screaming and they don't know what's going on. And we're shouting, we're making noise. Everybody's scared because, then we run back out the house, taking off. And then one of my friends will come and hit the window and the window broke and shit. But what I'm getting at is, when I watch Crawford, I could have seen Crawford be if he ran with us back, he'd be right in the middle of that shit. So don't think peer pressure is going to have Crawford out here feeling like, oh, y'all dare me to do it? Crawford is going to want to do it because he's stubborn. You know what I'm saying? And he believes in his skills. Just like when we used to do all that shit, we all could run fast. All of us could run fast. That's a whole nother goddamn story. But any of my friends watching this video, they'll know. They may post something in the comments because they know that shit used to be crazy. One day I'll sit there and give you the story about us being out there messing with people, doing shit at like 1 a.m, and how this guy, anyway, you guys start shooting at us. But that's a whole nother story. It'll have you laughing because I give you the whole background on, how, 2 years of harassing this guy at 1 a.m. every Saturday night. That shit'll have y'all cracking up. But that joker tried to kill us, man. But, he couldn't catch us. Too many of us running all over the place and up through the woods, but he was after us. Anyway, Canelo wants a smaller ring. Is he scared? Or is it just being tactical and trying to get the advantage and have the deck stacked in his favor? Crawford wanting not caring. Is Crawford going to let his pride get him killed in that ring? Or is Crawford going to hold his ground and say, nah, y'all not going to sit here and give him another advantage. Let's just fight. In a 20-foot ring, which is the standard size ring where almost 90% of fights take place in. Don't come now and do that. We know Canelo's the big dog. He's the A side. He's the money guy. Don't come and jerk me. I'm the smaller guy coming up. There's no need to try to get any additional advantages over me. That shit ain't cool. Y'all keep cool in the breeze.